All right, back to the respiratory system. Okay, so last time we were talking about your larynx right here. That's actually your whole, what encompasses your whole voice box. So we have some cartilage and some soft tissue, and also inside your vocal cords. Your vocal cords are called the glottis. And remember, we learned up here that your epiglottis is the flap that closes over your trachea. So, epi meaning above or upon, glottis, vocal cords. So, it's above your vocal cords. Then we have our trachea. So, air is going to go through our vocal cords into our trachea. Notice the trachea looks lumpy bumpy. Those are C shaped cartilage rings. We want to be able to protect our trachea from the outside, but posteriorly, it is adjacent to the esophagus. So we don't need to have cartilage in the back. We also call it our windpipe. It's lined with cilia, and we know it has a mucous membrane because it has an opening. Next, we have our bronchi and bronchioles. We branch off into our right and left mainstem bronchus. Right goes to the right, left goes to the left lung. And then it branches and branches and branches and gets smaller and 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 smaller. And if I could say that more, I would. But this video is only going to be 5 minutes. So we get teeny tiny microscopic, and our bronchioles are the itsy bitsy teeny tiny ones. We still are lined with cilia because we want to be sweeping any debris towards the back towards the upper airway. And at the very end, we have our alveoli. These are these little clusters that look like a little pod of grapes. Your alveoli are your air sacs. They are microscopic and they're all wrapped in capillaries. Remember, a capillary is where gas exchange can occur because they're one cell thick and permeable. If you imagine a ball wrapped in yarn, the ball would be the alveoli, and all the yarn wrapped around it would be the capillary network. Air is going to go from the alveoli into the bloodstream through that capillary network. We also have this really cool stuff that's kind of chemically like soap. I know that sounds very strange. If you've ever done dishes, and please don't admit it if you haven't, when dish soap hits greasy water, it separates the grease. So, surfactant increases surface area and keeps all those alveoli open. So every time you don't take a breath, that sac doesn't close, open, close, open, close, open, close, open. It's a fatty substance, therefore, just like the grease in our dishwater. Let's talk about our lungs in general. They fill up our thoracic cavity. We already know that. The upper rounded portion is called the apex, and the bottom portion that actually touch your diaphragm are called the bases of the lungs. Your right lung is a tiny bit larger, and it's a little bit shorter because the liver takes up so much room because it's really a really big organ. And it has 3 lobes. Your left lung only has 2 lobes because we have to have some room for our heart. The little place, if you look, let me roll up here. If you look at this little space that looks like a little cutout here, that's actually called the cardiac notch. That's kind of where your heart sits. And your heart and your lungs kind of sit snug up against each other with a membrane between it. Anyway, one more thing, your pleura, we already know what the pleura is, the pleural membrane, or that serous membrane that covers the outer portion of the lung. We also remember that the visceral pleura is the layer that touches the lung. The parietal pleura is the part that touches the cavity. And inside we have pleural fluid. All right, that's going to end our little session